So it's January 27th. What's notable about that day? Two things. Today was the last day of testimony in the federal trial here in San Francisco challenging Prop 8. That heinous proposition that eliminated the right to marry for same-sex couples being challenged under the federal Constitution in federal court. Not in state court anymore, in federal court, which means ends up probably at the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, we don't know what's going to happen at the U.S. Supreme Court. Obviously, this is a court that we're not sure is very supportive of LGBT rights, at least the majority of the members, perhaps. However, there's a lot to be hopeful of in terms of how the case was litigated really brilliantly by the Ted Olson and David Boy's team and the lawyers that they put together. The witnesses for our side talking about the history of discrimination and truly government-sponsored and supported vilification and demonization of LGBT people was truly extraordinary. Focusing in on how politically powerless we are because we need the right political climate, we need the right elected officials, and we need them to be willing to be courageous enough in order for us to make any political gains. Now, in the right climate, that's perfect, but if you don't have the right people in those places, it doesn't feel so good, and we can't move issues forward. The testimony about sexual orientation, its importance as a core part of who someone is, about our lack of political power in terms of reliable allies, and about the history of truly savage mistreatment of LGBT people was very compelling. On their side, all hat, no cattle. There really was no there. And in fact, the witnesses that they did put up, when questioned, actually think marriage would be a good thing for same-sex couples and would help our children and support our families. In any kind of objective world, we win and Prop 8 gets struck down. Keep your fingers crossed. Closing arguments probably will be scheduled by the judge in the next couple of weeks. He's taking some time to go through the entire record that was laid out before him over the last 2.5 weeks. And then we expect an opinion from him very shortly after oral argument concludes, closing arguments conclude, and then the case moves up on appeal to the Ninth Circuit and eventually, very likely, at the U.S. Supreme Court. Second thing that's important about today, tonight, State of the Union. President Obama's first State of the Union of the year, New Year 2010. There's a lot to be hopeful for in this year. And there's a lot of expectation riding on what he says tonight. We are in a do-or-die moment for moving forward LGBT issues. And there's been indications that he's maybe going to say something about don't ask, don't tell. I'm literally going to be holding my breath. It's time to say it, Mr. President. It's time to be that fierce advocate you promised you would be. It's time to do something bold. The Democrats, the agenda of fairness and equality and justice demands that you speak out tonight. So I'll be watching you, Mr. President, as many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of us around the country will be watching with our children, with our families. We want the hope that you promised to be reignited tonight. Please do that. If that happens, it's going to be a great year. Thanks for all your support, and stay tuned.